Child abuse is one of our nation's most serious public health problems. It occurs at every socioeconomic level, within all ethnic groups, cultures, and religions, and at all levels of education. Each day in the United States, 4 children die as a result of child abuse, and 3 out of 4 of these victims are under the age of 4. Scientific studies show a link between child abuse and neglect of children and a wide range of medical, emotional, and behavioral disorders such as depression, alcohol abuse, drug addiction, and juvenile delinquency. The Family Advocacy Program believes that we must raise community awareness of the signs and symptoms of child abuse, and to provide professionals, parents, and children and families with the tools and support they need to report potential abuse and to break the cycle of violence. This webinar will discuss what child abuse and neglect is. My name is Nicole Schwartz, and I work as a contractor in the Family Services section of Family and Morale, Wellness, and Recreation at the Defense Distribution Center Susquehanna in New Cumberland, Pennsylvania. Providing support and assistance to the Family Advocacy Program, or FAP, is the focus of my work with DLA. Family Advocacy is a Department of Defense sanctioned program designed to prevent, identify, report, and treat families that have experienced domestic violence or child abuse. Monthly workshops and webinars are part of our regular programming. Before we begin to describe the details of child abuse, it's important to understand that abuse is a very complex issue and should not be attributed to a character defect or a personal issue for a perpetrator or for a family. Cultivating a deeper understanding of the challenges that put families at risk for incidents of abuse or more long-term patterns of abuse will assist your ability to identify family, friends, and employees that may require assistance and resources as a method of prevention. In addition, understanding the protective factors at each level of community can assist in the development of skills and networks that cultivate capacity and resilience. There are many risk factors for abuse and parenting stress. It's the goal of the Family Advocacy Program to become involved in the lives of families experiencing these stress factors previous to any incident of abuse. Please request or refer for services when you learn that a person or family member is experiencing difficulties. The diagram seen in this slide is based on a model from Dr. Bronfenbrenner and can help to create a visual understanding of the factors that contribute to or protect from child abuse. The model illustrates individual and familial, community, and societal risk and protective factors. So if you look, the first smallest circle includes the individual risk factors and protective factors for abuse. The risk factors include a lack of parenting skill and capacity, the lack of child development knowledge, a past history of abuse for one or both of the parents involved, parental substance abuse or mental health issues, and the special needs of a child. And again, these are simply risk factors. These are not indicators that abuse is occurring or will occur, but they do indicate that a family is at an increased risk. But there are also protective factors. Social networks of relatives or friends, emotionally satisfying relationships, birth and child care support, and parenting education are also individual protective factors that can assist in balancing out the risk factors that any family or individual is experiencing. There are also familial or family risk factors. Significant parental stress, parental discord, isolation from the larger extended family, the occurrence of domestic violence, and challenging parent-child interactions are family risk factors. Family protective factors include positive adult role models, marital harmony, and the availability of caring and supporting network. These factors are protective factors for the family. If we move out a bit and look at the additional complexity, there are also community risk factors and protective factors. The community risk factors are high levels of unemployment, poverty, a lack of adequate housing and other support services. And community protective factors include stable and cohesive neighborhoods, access to adequate health care, quality education, and employment services, and support of child abuse prevention programs. And the society and culture in which we live also can participate in the risk or protection of children. Risk factors include the accepted violence and exploitation, corporal punishment, a lack of children's rights, a lack of supportive policies and funding. And protective factors include a culture of nonviolence and exploitation, supportive policies and funding, being proactive as opposed to reactive, and the existence of societal supports for family and children. So again, child abuse and neglect are complex issues and are not the responsibility and the ownership of just one person. The Department of Defense defines child abuse as the physical or sexual abuse, emotional or abuse or neglect of a child by a parent, guardian, foster parent, or a caregiver, whether the caregiver is intrafamilial or extrafamilial, under circumstances indicating that the child's welfare is harmed or threatened. In addition, acts by a sibling, other family member, or other persons are deemed as to be child abuse when the individual is providing care under the expressed or implied agreement with a parent, guardian, or foster parent. Physical child abuse is an injury resulting from physical aggression. Even if that injury was not intended, the act is considered physical abuse. This slide shows a list of examples, which includes beating, slapping, hitting, pushing, shaking, kicking, throwing, pinching, biting, choking, or hair pulling. Hitting, being hit by something that someone has thrown out of anger. Burning, severe physical punishment that results in bruising, an abusive head trauma or shaken baby syndrome, and also drug and alcohol use or abuse during pregnancy can be a founded case of physical abuse. While it's not uncommon for children to present with bruising, child welfare experts provide information and training on the identification of normal and suspicious bruising areas. It's common for children to run and bump and fall and knock into things and to bruise. Accidental bruising is common on the forehead, crown of the head, the bony spinal protuberances on the back, elbows, hips, knees, and shins. I have no doubt that if you've spent any time in the company of children that you've seen bruising in these areas. This slide also indicates areas that are common in non-accidental injuries. These are places that bruises occur that are not likely to be the result of an accident. Humans have a natural instinct to protect their face when falling, so bruising to the eyes, ears, cheeks, mouth, neck, and shoulders is uncommon in accidents because we generally use our hands to break our fall or protect those sensitive areas. The upper arms and inner arms can easily be bruised with grabbing or pinching. The stomach, genitals, and parts of the legs indicated on the slide are also suspicious areas. This does not indicate that any bruising in these areas is abuse, but more investigation and inquiry should be made. The slide's intention is to provide you with some basic information on normal and suspicious bruising areas. Sexual abuse of a child is any sexual act between an adult and a child, including penetration, intercourse, incest, rape, oral sex, and sodomy. And examples include fondling, violations of bodily privacy such as forcing a child to undress or spying on a child in the bathroom or bedroom, exposure to adult sexuality such as performing sexual acts in front of a child, exposing genitals or telling dirty jokes, showing pornography to a child, and also includes commercial exploitation, such as exploitation through child prostitution or child pornography. Regardless of the child's reaction, it's the responsibility of an adult not to engage in sexual acts with children. Sexual abuse is never, ever, ever the child's fault. And sexual child abusers can be mothers, fathers, siblings, and other relatives, child care professionals or babysitters, clergy, teachers, and athletic coaches, foster parents or host families of exchange students or other foster children in the home, neighbors or friends, and lastly, it can also be a stranger, but this is the least likely. Indicators for sexual abuse can include physical injury to genitals, the existence of sexually transmitted disease in children, bladder and urinary tract infection or very painful bowel movements, suspicious stains on children's clothing or underwear, inappropriate interest in or knowledge of sexual acts, sexual play, or seductiveness, withdrawal or isolation, avoidance of things related to sexuality or rejection of one's own genitals or body, either under or over compliance or excessive aggression, and fear of a particular person or family member. These are not this is not confirmation of the existence of abuse, but these are some of the indicators of abuse. Emotional child abuse is any attitude, behavior, or failure to act that interferes with a child's mental health or social development. It can range from a simple verbal insult to an extreme form of punishment. Emotional abuse is almost always present when another form of abuse is found. Surprisingly, emotional abuse can have more long-lasting negative psychiatric effects than either physical abuse or sexual abuse. More children suffer from neglect than any other form of physical or sexual abuse combined. However, less victims are identified because neglect is an act of omission. It's the only type of abuse where there's a failure to provide. Neglect is a pattern of failing to provide for a child's basic needs. And the three basic types of neglect include physical, educational, and emotional neglect. I'd like to leave you with resources for your reference and use. On our installation, the Defense Distribution Center Susquehanna, the DLA police are the reporting point of contact for suspected child abuse. If you have a reasonable suspicion of abuse, please phone dispatch and make them aware of it. The dispatch number on the installation is 717-770-6270. ChildLine, the Pennsylvania Child Abuse Hotline, provides information, counseling, and referral services for families and children to ensure the safety and well-being of the children of Pennsylvania. The toll-free intake line, 1-800-932-0313, is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to receive reports of suspected child abuse. Professionals who come into contact with children, such as mandated reporters, are required to report when they have a reasonable suspicion to suspect that a child under their care, supervision, guidance, or training of that person or the agency, institution, or organization is an abused child. However, any person may report child abuse. All mandated reporters must submit their name and contact information when phoning to make a report at ChildLine. Other members of the community who report can choose to remain anonymous. Each call is answered by a trained intake specialist who interviews the caller to determine the most appropriate course of action. Actions include forwarding a report to a county agency for investigation as child abuse or to General Protective Services, forwarding a report directly to law enforcement officials, or referring the caller to local social services. If you are a mandated reporter, you must report suspected abuse immediately, either by phone or electronically. I also included information on the Child Resource Center at the University of Pittsburgh's training. It is an excellent free web-based training on mandated and permissive reporting. And the training can be accessed at www.reportabusepA.pitt.edu. Thank you for viewing the Family Advocacy Program's webinar. We appreciate your time and attention. If you have any additional questions regarding FAP, seek referrals for programs or services, or would like to know more about our mission, please feel free to reach out to the Family Advocacy Program Manager at 717-770-7066. Thank you very much for your time.